ches. V'hine b'kedusha nasa me'os dalid hey. Now in holiness, the letter dalid becomes a letter hey. Ubisitra achra nasa mereish kuf. And on the other side, the reish becomes a kuf. Nasa mereish kuf pritz chaim hakdama l'shabos. Shar hakavanos in Tchum Shabbos. Look over there. The hey harayesh bo gam kein os yud, because a hey also has a letter yud. Milfanav, in front of it, v'uregel hasmali dosei, which is the left leg of the letter hey. Elashehu milfanav, but as opposed to the dalit, it's in front of it. Ubedalid hu me'achorav. And by the dalet that's on the back, that this hints to the type of unity that we're talking about. The os dalet mekabel me'os gimel shekadam elav, that the dalet receives from the gimel that's before it. V'hu yichud achor be'achor, and it's a union of back to back. Therefore, the yud is on the back. That the kol b'shamayim v'ara that we mentioned before is a yichud of achor ba'achor, of back in the back side. It's a more external union. Bos hey hayud milfanav sha yichud bebechinas panim bepanim, and in the letter yud, the yud is in front of it because the union is a concept of face to face. V'zeh nasa ayidei hatzdaka, and this happens through the charity. The Kedeis of Bikisfei Arizal, and like it's brought in the writings of the Ari, and the Rebbe says on the bottom, Bikisfei Arizal, Tami mitzvos pashas re'eh, shana mitzvos v'sefer likudim sham ubekama makomos, ure'eh ma'ore'or mareches tzedek. And there it explains this idea as well of tzedek and tzedakah, and the concept of panim bepanim. With a hey, that tzedakah hu tzedek hey, that tzedakah is made out of the word tzedek and hey, shemaos dalid nasa hey, that from the letter dalid becomes a hey, or the kuf becomes shortened to a hey, that there's a tikkun and a yichud, ukamayim razal gimel dalid, gimel dalim, and like our sages said, that gimel dalid refers to the giving to the poor people. The gimel is the gimel, and the dalet is the dalim. So the gimel dalet also is the concept of tzedakah or gmul, but the hey from the dalet takes it one step further, and therefore there's the difference between the first yichud and the yichud which is achor ba'achor and the yichud panim bepanim afterwards. And the Rebbe says on the bottom, kumayim razal gimel dalet, and like our sages said, gimel dalet Shabbos kuf dalet aleph. Looking Gemara Shabbos. Shadalid mekabel meha gimel, that the dalid receives from the gimel. And from this it becomes the letter hey. Aval besitra achra nasa mereish kuf, but on the other side the reish becomes a kuf. The kuf harehu dome bitmunasalos hey, that the kuf is similar in the way it looks to a letter hey. Hayosheves hey haraglaim hem b'shaveh, except that by the hey, the legs are equal. But by the letter kuf, the left leg descends downwards. Which is the concept of her legs go downwards towards death. And it's brought in Mishlei. Yurid lamata shezeu inyan resifrei lakutim sham. Look over there. The concept of malchus going down, downwards. Shehu kaneh hakuf, and that's the kaneh, that's the line of the kuf. Fuhu masham razal yarad Gavriel v'na'atz kana bayam, and this is what it corresponds with what our sages said, that Gavriel descended down and stuck a staff, reed in the water, v'ala bosirton, and a giant wave or flood came up from it. Valav nivne krach gadol, or something came up from that, and it was built upon it. Krach gadol, a great city, the concept of the building of Rome. Shu Meitzar Israel, which was a nation that gave pain to Israel. Rashi, v'kane hakuf, and this corresponds with the reed of the kuf. Hanase b'klipa v'seter achra, which is made in klippa and the other side. V'zehu ha'meitzar Israel, and this is the idea that it's a pain for Israel, because it's a concept of klippa and descent into the downwards. Ubir ha'inyan al derech ha'chasidisu. So that's the medrash. But the explanation of this, according to Chassidus, is Dehini Agimel Kavin Dosei Him Gimel Levushi Nefesh Machshav Dibur Maisa. That also before he explained it according to the inyan of the Sefer Lakudim of in the Kisvei Ari, and now we're explaining according to Chassidus in the mashal of the Nefesh Gimel Levushi Nefesh, the three garments of the soul, Machshav Dibur Maisa, the thought, speech, and action. And the Rebbe says on the bottom about the Gimel Kavin, Hagimel Kavin, Grei Torah or Dibur Maskul Chayiv Inish Arishon, Lekutei Torah Reish Parshas Balak Ve'od. Now that's the concept of the Hay. Ulechen Kana Hasmali, Hu Nifsak Mashnei Kavin, and therefore the left pillar, the left reed of the Hay, is separated from the other two lines, and that shows that action is separate from speech and thought. That even though thought is the garment that's united, and speech is the garment that's separated, that's separate, and that therefore thought is only to yourself, and speech is to someone else as well. But nonetheless, speech is nonetheless comparable to the thought, which is not the case with action, which is separate, which is more separate. And that's also in the order of the worlds, that it says in the pasuk that everything that I made, I called in my name for my honor. I created it, I formed it, I even made it. That I created corresponds with Bria, the world of thought. And I formed it, that's Yitzira, the world of speech. But by the world of action that I made it, he says, I even made it. That this af divides the concept. And that's the left leg of the letter Hey, that hints to the deed. And the letter Hey in holiness is when the three garments of the soul, thought, speech, and action, they are filled with the light of Torah. The wisdom and the emotions. That in one's thought, one thinks thoughts of Torah. And in your words, you speak the words of Torah. And even somebody who's simple and doesn't know what he's talking about, that he's not a person of grasping, but nonetheless, but still this person is careful to speak words of Torah, and the verses of Torah, so to the words of prayer, and does his actions of mitzvos, so too in his physical actions. All of a person's acts should be for the sake of heaven. That even in the things that are permissible, the things that are merely permissible, the things that are permissible according to Torah, they should be for the sake of heaven. Like when a person's doing business, like it says, 6 days you'll do your work. And the intention in the prophet is in order to fulfill the mitzvahs, to guard and to do. Like in the mitzvah of charity and kind acts, so too, the intention should be to have one's mind and heart free, to be involved in Torah, to learn and to teach, to guard and to do, as the times that are set for Torah study, and service of the heart in prayer. And when a person does this, beside from the fact that a person gains time to study and enlivens their soul truly, and shines the light of Torah and Tefillah into it. But further, the essential, that act of doing business itself, when it's for the sake of heaven, is a proper thing, and it's done properly, that automatically the person then is careful from cheating and from stealing and from tricking and lying. Because the person knows that all of these things are hated by Hashem. And how could you do something against the divine? And also shines into this person the simple in belief that's set in the heart of every man of Israel, the birchas Havaya hitashir, that it's the blessing from Havaya that will make a person wealthy. And the blessing will only come when the work is a fitting vessel for the blessings of Hashem. And so too, this person, that's how he conducts himself in all of his other matters. Whether it's eating or drinking, which is for the sake of heaven, to be healthy, that his body should be healthy, that he should be able to study and daven, and to serve Hashem with the fulfillment of the mitzvos. Each person according to their essence and level, Mare Torah, Mare Tefillah, Mare Uvdin Tavin, whether they're masters of Torah, masters of prayer, or masters of good deed, Bitzdaka v'gamach, with charity and kind acts, v'hadome, and the like, lefarnis anim, to sustain the poor people, v'lios mitomchin deoraisa, and to be of the supporters of the Torah, begufo umamono, in his body and his money. The az kasher osezos l'shem shamayim, that when a person does all these things for the sake of heaven, and we're talking about somebody in their permissible acts, so automatically, so the actions are fitting and proper. Just like by eating and drinking, that a person is careful from the extras, eating the perushu, that means the gambit varim hamutarim, that even in the permissible things, you need davar shu mutarus lo nizhar mizeh, that something that's extra in eating or drinking, a person is careful careful about it. Because the eating is not, and drinking, because this concept is not just to fulfill the desires of their soul, rather it has the intention to be to keep the body going and to keep it alive. So too in the other things that a person is involved in, like somebody who's a gabbai of tzedakah and the like, that's somebody who's collecting tzedakah, so their words are gentle and in close knowledge with the other person. You speak to them like a person who close to them, and not commanding from above. And even though a person sometimes stands strong in a strong way, to stand for his ideal, or the thing they're collecting for, or the thing they're standing for, with a great strength, that this thing should be accomplished in a beautiful way, or the like. Nonetheless, the person still speaks gently and with words of reason, and distances themselves from haughtiness to the last point, because by this person who's collecting, the main thing is the inner idea of what's going on, shu mitzvah havaya, the understanding that this is the mitzvah of havaya, v'zeu os hei b'kedusha, and that's the letter Hey in holiness, these three garments. But the letter Kuf, and the letter Kuf is the thought, speech, and action of the other side. And it comes from the letter Reish. Those Reishu machshava v'dibur d'lu'umazeh, that the Reish, or the two lines corresponding with thought and speech of the other side, that when a person is full of other thoughts and bad ideas and bad desires in their mind, so too in speech, saying things that are not for Hashem, not only forbidden speech, lashon hara, rechilus v'adome, whether it's bad speech or tattletaling and the like, gam riboy dvarim betelim, but even just a lot of empty words, so that will cause the third line, the read of the kuf, which is the action, that is, that the thought and speech that are bad lead to the person falling in a not good act. Hashem should have mercy. And this is the line of the kuf that descends downwards, and that is through a bad act, a person descends far below, and it comes from the thought and the speech that are not good. And this is what it says, that the pit was empty, it did not have water. That you have two concepts. You have a be'er, a well, that's spelled with an aleph, and you have a bor, a pit, that's spelled with a vav. The be'er ba'alef kayal haneshama, that the well with an aleph, that refers to the soul, the Kamoshe Kazuv, Mayan Ganim ber Mayim Chaim, like it says, the spring of the gardens, a well of life-giving waters. And the Rebbe says on the bottom, Mayan Ganim ber Mayim Chaim, Rei Lekutei Torah Pashas Chukas, Dibur HaMaschil Az Yashir, Dibur HaMaschil Shchora Ani Tavshin Beis, Kuntrus Memvav, Dibur HaMaschil Mayan Ganim, B'Sefer HaMamorim Yiddish. And back in the Mamer, that just like the well flows from below to above, and through this you have a lot of water. So to the soul, through its descent into the body, that the body is this deep pit, the bor, but when a person is involved in Torah and mitzvahs, like we said, through this specifically, you have the ascent of the soul, with a greater strength in elevation after elevation of Zehu Mayan Ganim, and this is the spring of the gardens, Hanuvas begiloi lelukus, that through the soul being a concept of a well that flows in revelation of a divinity, ayidei ahavoda bebirur v'zichu chaguf, through the service of purification and cleansing of the body. Hine mizeh naseh hamayan b'haganim. Through this, it causes to have, that creates the spring of the gardens, that the well becomes the spring to water the gardens. The Gan Hu Gan Eden, that the garden, that refers to the Garden of Eden, that your soul creates the Gan Eden by doing the Torah mitzvahs and changing the pit into a well of life-giving waters, like it says, that he planted and so forth, a garden in Eden and so forth. Baganim him began Eden, and the fact that this pasuk says gardens, Mayan Ganim, is that in plural there are two levels. Hem beis hamadregos began Eden, that refers to the two levels in the Garden of Eden. Gan Eden hatachton, vegan Eden ha'elyon, the lower Garden of Eden and the higher Garden of Eden. V'hushak yadamaya, and that's the watering of, and that's the flow of the watering of the water. Nachal ha'tainug, the river of pleasure, shenasa l'neshamos began Eden, that flows, that is made for the souls in the Garden of Eden. Ba'alos when they ascend above. The concept of the watering the garden is the pleasure that's given to the souls, that you create that watering by the Torah mitzvahs that you do down here, changing the pit to the well. But the pit on its own is empty. That emptiness, to be empty, that's a pit. And notice that that its reik is reish kuf, these two letters of reish and kuf. Zeu shamar razal Shabbos tavchav beis amud beis memash mash nemar v'abor reik. And this is what our sages said in Shabbos, the second 22nd folio on the second side, that mamash mash nemar, this, that it says v'abor reik in yodeh shein bo mayim, this, that it says that the pit is empty. Don't I know already that there's no water in it? Uma Talmud lomar in bo mayim. Why do you have to tell me that there's no water? Lomar lecha, and this tells us my main bow aval nechashim v'akravim yesh bo, that there's no water in it, but it has snakes and scorpions in it. Dabor reik, that the pit is empty. Ubor shua nefesh bahamis, that the pit, which is the animalistic soul, my main bow, it doesn't have water on its own. But it's full of these snakes and scorpions, which refers to the bad and foreign thoughts and so forth. Hakuf, and that's the letter kuf, shem kekuf bifnei adam, which is compared to a monkey in front of a man. That it's similar to man, but it's the other side. It's the concept of klippa, man, as he descends into klippa. And the Rebbe says on the bottom, hakuf hu kekov, that the kuf is like kov peetz chaim v'shara kavanos sham ori or kuf aleph ve'od. This idea, the adam who machshava dibur ma'aseh, that a man is thought, speech, and action. And the Rebbe says on the bottom, the adam who machshava dibur ma'aseh l'kutei Torah rish dibur maschil b'haloscha hashini b'kama makomos. The Aleph Daled Mem of Adam refers to thought, speech, and action. Aleph is the thought, Daled is Dibur, and Mem is Maisa, or something like that. Aleph Machshava, and this is what he says, that Aleph refers to the thought, Daled Mem Dibur Maisa, the Daled Mem refers to the speech and action. Val Klippa Hem Rakekov Bifnei Adam, but the Klippa is only like a monkey in front of man. It's not an Adam with a thought, speech, and action, but it's compared to them. But in Klippa, the Bekadusha, Machshava Dibur Umase, Memula Meora Kedusha, that in holiness, this thought, speech, and action is full of the light of holiness. Obesitra Achara, but on the other side, Memula Memachshava Zaros Chulu, it's full of foreign thoughts and so forth. V'zeu she'amar b'zohar, v'notlinos shin, that this is what it says in the Zohar, that the kuf and the reish take this letter shin, shumashelok in ha'ara de ha'ara. This is that they take this glimmer of a glimmer, maha'aras ha'chayus de kedusha, from the light of the holiness of the life of holiness. V'zeu ha'kiyum shalem, and this is how they exist and are established. That it's kikof b'fnei adam, that the kof, the fact that the monkey, it looks like a man, is compared to a man, means they have a certain foundation in man, that's like the shin, that's in the kuf and the resh of sheker, the truth within the falsehood, the comparison to Adam. Kitzer, you have a kitzer b'kedusha nasim and daled hey. The daled becomes a hey. Mimachshava dibur v'dibur balamaisa, that from thought and speech you come to action. Shekulam imulaim b'torah mitzvos, that all of them are full of the Torah mitzvos. B'sitra achara nasim reish kuf, but on the other side, the reish becomes a kuf. Mimachshava v'dibur dilumazah nofil b'maisa lotov, and that from the thought and speech of the other side, you fall into not good acts.